moments here, but any second now. There we go. All right.
Good. The regular meeting of the West Broadway Improvement Special Service District Advisory Board will now begin. Good morning. My name is Michael McLaughlin. I will be facilitating this meeting of the West Broadway Improvement Special Service District Advisory Board. Before we begin, I'd like to note that this meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. I will now call this meeting to order and call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum. Board members, when I call your name, please indicate if you are present. Justin Baylor.
Present.
KB Brown.
Present.
Good. Dean Rose.
Present.
I will note that at this point we have not been joined by James Scott or Tara Watson. We do not expect James. He indicated that he was out of the office today. We may yet be joined by Dr. Watson. Also, Andrew Carlson, the third member of our team, is not able to join us, but I'll note that David Bauer with the City of Minneapolis is also here today. And I will note as of right now, we do not have any guests from the public that have joined us or called in. There being a quorum of advisory board members present, we will proceed with the meeting. If desired, the advisory board may adopt today's draft meeting agenda and draft minutes to the last meeting in one action. Those are the first two action items we have. A proposed agenda and draft minutes were included in the meeting packet. The minutes were to the last meeting, which was on November 5th, 2020. And again, they were distributed in the packet and posted to the city's website. Are there any modifications to the proposed agenda or the draft minutes? Would someone, if not, would someone like to make a motion to approve both the proposed agenda and the draft minutes?
Motion to approve by Dean Rose.
Good. Is there a second?
Second.
Justin, thank you.
Justin Baylor.
If there's no further discussion, I can call the roll. So when I call your name, please indicate an aye or nay on the motion, which is to approve both the proposed agenda and the draft minutes. Justin Baylor.
Aye.
KB Brown.
Aye.
Very good. Dean Rose.
Aye.
And again, James Scott and Tara Watson are not present at this point. The agenda and the minutes to the agenda to today's meeting and the minutes to the prior meeting are approved as distributed. Next on the agenda is the public comment period. Again, we have no one that has called in from the public, so we can table that item until the end of the agenda, should someone join us between now and the end of the meeting. With that, we can move into our discussion items. And I am going to quickly share my screen. We wanted to spend just.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
How are we getting the information out for people to call in for public comments? Because I've had people ask me.
Yeah. So great question. It is posted to the city's website with all of the other boards and commissions when the meetings are to occur, and the participation information is included on the agenda where it's posted.
Have you seen the city's website?
Yes, I have. I'm going to go down here. So, but by all means, it is a public meeting, and public members of the public are welcome to join. This is just to note, this is likely one of the last remote meetings we will have with the group. We are only able to meet remotely because of the declared local health pandemic. Once that declaration ends or expires, we will then resume in-person meetings, and just like we were doing prior to the pandemic. And again, those meetings would be posted in the same manner as current meetings. coming back to the discussion items, the first item we wanted to spend just a couple minutes on was the 2020 annual report. This was included in the packet. This has also gone to City Council. This follows the format we had used in the prior year, but it's updated. So you can see that, again, we just provide a quick overview of the district, list of the advisory board members, the role of the advisory board in terms of recommending, desired services levels, operating plan and budget. That we look to the board to help make recommendations on all those items. We then on page 2 have a summary of services. And again, this was distributed to board members a couple months ago and also included in the packet for this meeting. Did want to just highlight a couple of things. We did under litter and debris. We removed just over 21,000 cubic feet of trash from the district's 12 trash receptacles. The district maintained trash receptacles, and I noticed nuanced that by saying there are other public trash receptacles that are not included in that number. So this is just the number that the service district incurred the cost to maintain. We certainly adjusted trash service frequencies as needed based on, the footfalls and pedestrian volumes based on the pandemic. Sidewalk pan and broom occurred 103 times over the course of the year, resulting in over 7,300 cubic feet of trash removed from the district. We also did seasonal cleanups in May and November. And I'm going over this quickly, but happy to answer any questions. We did this summer, took care of the planters last summer. They were planted, material was put in, they were maintained, watered, garbage and debris was removed out of them as needed. At the end of the growing season, that plant materials were removed. New last year, we installed the winter plant material for the winter, so spruce tips, things like that. So that was all furnished and installed in November. From moving on to streetscape maintenance and repair. So graffiti and posters were removed from the public right-of-way every week within the district, resulting in over 1,100 instances of graffiti abated. Again, that's just in the public right-of-way. That does not include anything on buildings or private property. And we inspected the banners if there were any repairs that were needed with regard to the district's identity banners. And then seasonal decor in November, we obviously put up the seasonal decor that the district's had for the last couple of years, and we removed that and store that for the off season in February. Again, just doing this quickly, but happy to answer any, I'm going to zoom in here. Financially, the district had an amended budget of $187,962 for the year. The actual expenses were $137,438. So there was a surplus of $50,524 from the year-end calendar year. As has been the practice of the board since the inception of the district, those funds were carried forward to the current budget year, and you'll see it in your amended budget for this current year for 2021 in just a moment, where that $50,524 is available to spend on services this year, and or some or all of it can be carried forward to next year. Didn't mean to do that. And the final page is just a map of the district, which has not changed since the inception of the district. Any questions? This was meant to be just a quick overview. Any questions on the 2020 annual report?
Yes.
Please.
First of all, you showed the result of the 21,000 cubic feet of trash removed. Do you have any comparison to our previous years of how that equates to the amount of trash removed in 2020 versus 16, 17, 18, 19?
We are not aware that was a stat that that the West Broadway Area Coalition tracked in the years that it was self-managed.
Okay.
We do have a number for 2020, but we did not calculate it in the same way. We were using a different methodology, and I'm quickly looking for our 2019 annual report.
Yeah, I just looked at the 2019 annual report and it did not have a statistic. But I know that we were tracking the pounds of trash removed annually. But I don't have, my documentation doesn't show reports before 2019 that I
Yeah.
can find. So
Yeah.
I
So
was
here's
just interested to know whether or not that was a statistic of metric we had available.
and now I'm remembering why. So we actually produced this annual report. The West Broadway Area Coalition did not, even though this was the last year of service for the West Broadway Area Coalition. So that's why if we were not furnished the number, we didn't have it to include. If it exists, if you guys are aware of it existing in the records of the West Broadway Area Coalition, by all means, it would be helpful to have that, because these are the types of metrics that we are, as you can see, tracking not only for your district, but all the districts, because it is a helpful tool just to, what did we do in one year versus another? So if you're aware that it exists, by all means, please share it.
Sure. Okay.
Any other questions on the 2020 annual report?
Yes. The winter spruce decorations that we put in this year, they obviously were removed, it looks like, in February. Do we know how they fared overall in their condition for reuse?
Typically, we don't reuse the winter spruce tips because they're deciduous material. Were you talking about the planter material or the holiday decor that's put on the light poles?
I'm talking about the not the holiday decor, but the spruce stuff. I didn't realize. So it's thrown out annually then.
Yeah, it's basically fresh cut material, so it's a one season type of use, just because of what it is. It just won't survive. It dries out and it's just not practical to reuse it. And honestly, sometimes we aren't able, by the end of the season, it can start looking kind of dry because the needles fall. It's essentially like a Christmas tree, kind of, if you will, or any kind of live holiday decor you might have at a home.
Right.
So that's why we're not able to reuse it.
Okay. And I noticed that similar to West Broadway Coalition Operation Days, you came in with a surplus, not spending all the money. And I'm
Right.
looking at how that breaks down. What I noticed, and I have spoken with some of the contracted service individuals who walk up and down and provide the pan and broom services, and they're working 2 days a week, and your report justifies that with 103 days of service. Weren't we doing more than just 2 days a week prior to city operations when we were using Better Futures?
My understanding, there was a different approach in that the crews were deployed for hours of the day, more days of the week, but they weren't. They were going out, and others can help me get the numbers right. But if they were deployed for 4 or 5 hours a day, they went as far as the 4 or 5 hours got them. Not necessarily that didn't necessarily mean they covered the entire district. When we're doing services and go out twice a week, that is all encompassing of the entire district. So it's because there's a different approach in there. It's hard to know how much of the district was getting covered. At least that's my recollection.
That's partially correct, but partially incorrect.
Okay.
They made sure the entire district was covered. The difference, Dean, is that they provided a service that we didn't ask for. Since most of them were from the community, they spent more time out on the corridor because they also provided eyes and ears on the corridor. So we were able to kind of get in front of a lot of the stuff that's happening on the corridor because they were out there. So they did cover the entire corridor.
Yep. Yes, I agree with you, KB. They did cover the corridor. Sounds like they were broken up. They didn't. My understanding in speaking with the gentleman this past week or so, there's a crew of 10 or 12, and they start at the west end and they work all the way to the east end on Mondays and Fridays. And that was the input they gave me as to how they operate.
Yes. And
So-
that frequency
Well, at
could
least they
be
commu- at least
increased.
they communicated with you. They
I'm
won't
sorry?
communicate with me. They don't communicate with me.
Okay. I assume that you've tried to speak with them before.
Yeah, a couple times actually.
Okay.
But you know,
They're scared of you,
it
KB.
is what it is.
They're scared.
Hey, they won't be the first, and I'm sure they won't be the last.
They did mention a gentleman who was not pleased with the services, and it seems that they may have been referring to you. And I did encourage them to have a conversation with you that you don't bite. So.
Well, that's partially because between me and the bike club, we actually pay someone else to clean in front of the Capri, my shop, and around that curve.
Okay.
We pay that person weekly
Okay.
out of our pockets because it's not getting done. So,
Okay.
and when we're not able to do it, we actually took one of the young guys that's in the apartment building next door and basically gave him a job since the people that were supposed to be doing it are not doing it.
Sure.
We just got tired of saying something, so we just took it on ourselves to get it done.
Sure.
Well,
And
just a comment there, though, those services are being provided where the board has recommended that they be provided. Certainly, property owners are free to supplement that service when desired.
And what I'm telling you is, in front of my shop, if I was to take pictures, it looks terrible, and it's on the main street because we're right on the corridor. So we're not on the side street. We're right on the corridor.
Yep. Well,
So
would the board
we
like to
just
recommend
decided,
increasing the frequency of
instead
the?
of saying something because we don't feel like we're being heard by the city, we just took it on ourselves to hire someone else to do it.
And I KB am similar. I employ somebody from the apartments on a daily basis to do our perimeters as well. And we can address the level of service and the frequency of the service as we move along, Michael. I think we do want to address the frequency, I think, more. Since we do have a surplus, I think it's an opportunity for us to increase the frequency for the avenue.
Indeed. Other questions on the 2020 annual report? Well, with that, we can move on to the 2021. In the packet and on the screen is the amended budget for this calendar year. You see the original budget was 144,788. You see the surplus from year-end 2020 of 50,524. For budgetary purposes, we split it between two line items, but know that those dollars are flexible and that we can spend them on any of the four categories in any amount, up to the 50,524. So we just split it between litter, debris management, and streetscape maintenance. And then, so you've got your amended budget of $195,312 here. So we can actually continue. I was going to mention that we are doing, as we've already discussed, the pan and broom twice a week, which was the original frequency recommended by the board starting for year in 2020. We are doing graffiti abatement in the public right-of-way once a week. We are maintaining the planters at least once a week. But we can, to Dean's point, there are some additional dollars there if the board would like to increase the frequency of any of those services. I'll pause for.
What do you mean by maintain the planters?
The vendor waters them. They remove the garbage from them if need be. Unfortunately, in a number of cases, we do have people pull the plants out and they'll throw them on the ground. So we pick them up, and if they're still there, and we'll put them back in the planter. Any pruning that's needed. The main thing is watering and removal of any litter that's been placed in the planter. Dean, you mentioned potentially adjusting the frequency. Were you thinking about for the remainder of this year, or thinking more about as you budget for next year?
I think there's no better time than the present. I think our community we need to step up and show more attention to the corridor between frequency of trash pickup, fixing, we have broken trash receptacles that need attention. We've got some visual blight, I believe, especially down near the 94 West Broadway bridge corridor, with a lot of rusting and just blight of visual aesthetics as our entryway into West Broadway, that I think should receive some attention to spruce it up and make it more attractive and inviting.
I agree with you, Dean, and that was the reason I asked about maintaining planters, because I haven't seen plants in those planters for at least a year now. So I was kind of wondering where the planters were, but the ones that are still actually operational.
David's was just out a couple days ago and took some fresh pictures that we can show the group. They definitely are all planted, and they all had spruce tips in them for the winter. At least any district maintained planters. There may be some businesses may have their own planters. We wouldn't maintain those, of course.
Yeah,
I know the difference between the district and the private businesses one.
That's
Thank you.
yeah, those are. Do we know? Can you, David? Do you know how many of those planter boxes, district planter boxes, exist on the avenue? You're muted, David.
Yeah, I think we have about 10, maybe
10.
12. It's something
Okay.
like that.
Well, I would like to see, if we only have 10 to 12, I'd like to see that potentially at least doubled, to get some additional beautification added to our avenue. I don't. How did the rest of the board feel?
I think you're spot on, especially in regards to the blight and some of the unsightly maintenance, how that looks and how much money we have for that. Maybe we can get into that conversation.
Well, certainly we can increase. It's a little tough to do in season, and we've had districts, because of everything that's happened. Just for context, we've had some districts who haven't historically had planters who have added them, and we have just because of everything going on, we have definitely run into challenges, both with suppliers being able to provide even enough plant material, let alone the planters and the lead time. But it's certainly something if the group said we want a dozen more planters, we could certainly do everything we can to get them in place for next spring, for next growing season, just given the reality of supplies right now, in terms of third-party providers. But by all means, that is something you could do. We'd probably want to have a little bit of a conversation. You guys have some planters that were funded via various grants over the years, the blue and the green ones, and then you also have the metal ones, so that 10 to 12 quantity includes both of those types, because you're more ornate, they're sort of maroon, and I think they're purple, or those types of planters, the metal ones. But if the group had a preference for the type of planter, the other thing I would just mention, just in terms of the art of the possible, because we have a couple districts doing this, and we're going to be putting in an order, are light pole mounted planters that wrap around the light pole, and they're installed, sort of 10 feet in the air or so, so that, you get that visual aesthetic of, sort of the plants flowing down, but without them sort of necessarily being in, to some degree, in harm's way, meaning right on the sidewalk where people can kind of come at them. So definitely could continue with the sidewalk planter. I just wanted the board to know that there are some other options, and options, quite honestly, that we're going to be putting an order in for some other districts. So
my two questions regarding that would be, number one, do you have a visual picture to show that? Example number one.
Yes.
And what is the cost associated with one of those fixtures?
Yeah, so the first year cost is, when I say all in, I mean the hanging basket. So I'm trying to talk and do more than one thing at a time here. So give me one moment, and I will see if I can find some photos of the planters that. Well, I got all these other things I thought we might talk about. There we go. I think I got them. So here, I got one. Now this is that's the one I was just about to pull up. So this is an example, to be clear, not in Minnesota. This is a different climate, so their growing season is a little longer than ours. But here's an example of, this is the style we're going to be doing in 2 other districts. It's a so it's 2 parts that basically go around the light pole, as opposed to, you probably have seen sort of arms that come off of a light pole and then they hang down free. We tend to like these because they're right around the pole, so there's less risk of them falling, quite honestly. They bolt to one another. You can see these downtown. The DID has a number of these throughout, like First Avenue and other sections of downtown. So you can see examples of these in Minneapolis. And our thinking would be to replicate those. So that's an example. And then unit cost. So to buy it, to install it, the first year's sort of soil, planting material, all the anticipated watering, we're probably in that $750 to $1,000 per location for the season, to be clear. So that's not just the cost to put it in. That's watering and everything, taking it out at the end of the growing season. And I should be clear, we do have the ability to also put in those spruce tips in these for the winter, so they can provide a year-round greening benefit. So that 750 to 1,000 number includes 12 months for all of that, roughly.
Gentlemen, I actually have to step away.
Hey, KB,
KB,
before you go, KB, can I ask before you go, would you be supportive of seeing those types of plants plant at least 2 to 4 per major node, the 4 or 5 major nodes? Would you be supportive of seeing those added for next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Before you go, if the board's comfortable, we're really looking for a budget recommendation for next year. And if we lose KB, we lose our quorum and we're not going to be able to take action. Is the group a draft budget that essentially is status quo from an expenditure standpoint was included in the packet. I would submit, because of the amount of surplus that you rolled over from last year and the surplus we would anticipate from this year, we could still pursue a hanging basket project.
I really have to go, gentlemen.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, we will adjourn the meeting then. And
hold on. I know that Dr. Watson, she's trying to get in. She's with a patient. Let me just see if I can get her to log in.
Yeah, if we can get her, that'd be great. And I mean, we only need her for 15 minutes maybe. We can look at that budget and adopt something real quick.
All right, I've sent it out. So can we continue a conversation, Michael? Just to get Justin and I up to speed about what else we want to try and accomplish if we get the minutes.
Unfortunately, we can't.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
So, we can talk about anything else that isn't board business.
Justin, I got breakfast at Robbinsdale McDonald's today, and they suggested that they'd like to see you behind the grill next week.
Yeah, no problem. I tell them everything they know. So hopefully your food was quick and fresh.
Your Robbinsdale location, they do a fantastic job. I got to tell you. I don't go much to Broadway.
Are you saying the other ones don't?
No, I'm saying I don't frequent the Broadway location, just because I come in from a different direction.
Gotcha.
But my last experience at your Broadway location, it was almost like I got a free meal. So it was fantastic. But
I might have been there for that one, actually.
I think you might have. But your Robbinsdale team over there, they do a great job.
Good.
All right, let me see if she responded. Can we discuss, Michael, and since we have lost quorum, how we would reconvene this meeting? Can that be a conversation we can have?
Yeah, what we will do is we will canvass the board, just like we did for this meeting. We will canvass the board for availability for another meeting date. It could be potentially as soon as next week, and we could certainly look at calendars, or we can look at right after the 4th holiday.
I would recommend it's going to be after the 4th of July weekend, between my busiest week of July or of the summer comes up next week, and plus various other sundries. So I would appreciate if we could do it somewhere between the 5th and the 9th. That would be my recommendation. What does your schedule look like, Justin?
I'm fairly flexible, but I agreed next week, the following week would be better after the holiday. So again, Monday, just shoot me a couple of dates and I can, my weeks kind of change every week.
So maybe Thursday, July 9th, 2 weeks from today, maybe at the same 10 a.m. slot.
July 8th.
David, you're muted.
Friday is
Sorry,
July.
yeah, Thursday is the 8th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I was I was blocking the date on my calendar.
So just to give you perspective, the West Broadway Coalition has its monthly board meeting on July 8th from 8:45 to 10:15. So this, the members on this board would not be able to meet until at least 10:30 on that date.
Okay. I think that could work for us.
Yeah, I have something until about 10:30, so maybe at 11 o'clock could work for me. So.
Okay.
And my gut, I don't know, Justin, how do you feel about having back-to-backs? Would you rather go back-to-back with a meeting, or would you rather space it out and do the board WBC in the morning and do this in an afternoon meeting?
I'm going to say the spacing it out. If we're trying to get everyone involved, I just feel like 8:30 to 12 is going to be tough for.
I agree. So if we could, gentlemen, if we could consider something in the 2 o'clock, 2:30 hour, I think that we're going to have more luck in getting a proper quorum.
I was thinking 2 o'clock. Why don't we propose that to everybody?
Okay, that sounds good. All right, well, I have not heard back from Dr. Watson, and so I don't feel the need that we should waste any more time if we can't conduct business. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll look forward to a rescheduled meeting. Obviously, you've heard some commentary, so I think it will help frame our next meeting and perhaps keep us more on track for the agenda you want to get through.
Very good. Thank you all. We'll post
Thanks.
that for 2
Thank you,
weeks.
guys.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you, guys.